All right, okay. Well, we'll go ahead and call the March 24th Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. Um, well, those around the table, welcome. As one of those, maybe one of these days we'll get some public to come in. Anyone wish to take off their committee hat and as a member of the public speak? Okay. All right. Update on current projects. Sir.
All right. Thank you. I think the biggest thing that's occurred since we met last time, and even since we had the last board meeting, is that have switched over to PAA, and it's going well. I think we're well below the limit, so that what this is going to affect is our E. coli limit, and we're well below that. But now it's just adjusting and fine-tuning what that dosage rate is, and I believe that Kyle and his team are looking at. Right now, we have to manually make those adjustments, and he's looking at some equipment that would allow for it to be automatically adjusted based on plant flow rate.
Staff having to go out.
Mm-hmm. So, but it's working exactly how they hoped it would. I'll glance through this and see if there's anything else worth touching on.
Forgive me, I don't know. Is that type of equipment something you can just go ahead and do, or is it large enough that you have to put it into next year's budget?
No, it's from what I understand, we can work this into our budget fairly easily within our general plant budget. I don't think it would take all that much. You're going to see there's several things on the first sheet where you may see an NA beside it, or a TBD. So these were items that we had anticipated looking at for this current fiscal year, but after getting into it, that anything to do with the Conross pump station is going to have to be evaluated by an engineer. So we have to defer that. But while we're also looking at some possible grant opportunities for both the Perkins and the Conross pump stations with flood proofing these, so we may work those into the assessment for that grant opportunity to help to, at the very least, flood proof them, if not to do a considerably hardened structure with newer updated equipment as well. So we are working with a consultant that assisted us with our FEMA projects from Hurricane Helene on that. Pre-treatment program update. This is just one we have to do with the NPDES permit. So they will have to go through the legal review, the board review and approval, public notice, DES approval, much like we had to do about, was it a year and a half, 2 years ago. But all of that has to do with the new discharge permit that we have. The second sheet is just a follow along for the reconstitution committee tasks. And then the final sheet are projects that are listed in the capital projects restricted fund or any other fund of interest. So the majority of the things you see in there are going to be, the big things are going to be skip funded projects, dewatering equipment, or the gravity sewer rehab project. Both those are skip funded. And then we maintained that I-85 corridor phase 2 sewer in here because there's a couple of items that we need water at one of the pump stations at the Welcome Center. So the county had approved to have that done back, a year, maybe more than a year ago. So that has to be designed, and then we have to find a way to get an access point to the Broomway Lane pump station from the controlled access on the interstate side. So we're having to put in a gate there. So there's kind of two remaining tasks associated with that phase 2 project before we can close it out. But any questions?
Any questions for Chris? Hearing none, we'll move along. So our one and only action item for the committee today is the February and year-to-date financial reports. Got those. Anything in particular we need to know
I don't
about
think
this
so.
particular one?
I think everything is okay. We do have still have a couple of large expenses that are coming down between now and the end of the year that are associated with that final clarifier rehabilitation. We also have a bid that's due, I believe it's next week, for a transfer switch installation for the plant to allow us to hook up a mobile generator here to power the entire plant site. If we were to lose power again, we just happened a few times since we've been here. I think twice, maybe 3 times, we've had to rent a large, 2 meg generator, but we had to hardwire it into the plant each time. So in order to have a redundant power supply, we're not going to put in a permanent generator, not at this time. We would consider that as a plant upgrade time, but this would allow us to at least pull a unit in, a trailer mount unit, and minimize downtime.
I was talking about that last month. Anyone have any questions about the reports as presented? Is there a motion that we accept these?
Let's make a motion to accept it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Hearing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. And then our recommendation to the board, supplemental budget number 3.
This is a paper trail item only, to be honest with you. I don't even think that you guys have seen this. The expenses in the past, they have showed up in the line item budget that we present. And these costs have, in the past, when we do a transfer from our wholesale O&M fund to the capital projects fund, has showed up as an administrative expense. I had a call back, and this may be 6 months ago, like, why is your administrative, we hear that you have these issues, these needs at the plant, but, we see that your administrative costs are high. Why is that? So, I mentioned, well, it includes the $500,000 of transfer to this projects fund. So it made me think, well, what I'm going to do to better reflect that is just move that from administration to the O&M capital improvements project line item. It doesn't matter at all, but it just would, I guess, be a little more transparent to where that money, that it's not going to salary, it's not going to a lot of the administrative items that we do have, that it is being transferred to that restricted fund that has a specific purpose, which is, for replacement and capital items. So that's all this really is the,
Just increasing transparency.
just increasing transfers for the public, but also for you guys. If you ever look at that, look at the line item that we have for admin on the general line item budget that we present, is just going to show you that it's about $500,000 higher when a lot of that money would be going outside. There's not a GL code with it. It's more for my sake and for the public's sake to see that we are funding CIP through the rates and fees that we collect.
In next year's budget, will it just have more over into the capital to reflect those, or will it still be in the administrative costs so it can be used as needed?
If it moves here,
Mm-hmm.
if it's approved, it'll remain this from here on out, it'll stay just like you see here. It'll no longer be seen as an administrative
No, I
item.
mean in next year's budget. Moving forward, I understand we just started a budget and this is how it is, but will we make that
For FY
accommodation?
27,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I mean, is it'll stay.
Okay.
It'll stay just like you see here. It'll stay
Alright.
for FY 27, the budget that I'm working on now. That's what made me want to go ahead and do this now, so that you're used to seeing it. I don't have to go and explain it at that time. It's already going to be.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Does anybody have any questions about this particular item, this budget?
No, I think it makes perfect sense. I know we do the same thing. We try to, any of our catch-all budgets, we try to not make them a catch-all. Try to get things to where
Mm-hmm.
the public knows what it is. We know what it is. We have some administrative folks who in the past would charge everything to those type of line items, and then it really messed with budgeting time. You didn't know where your money was going. So I think this is a great idea.
And this is one of these things too that I believe Ms. Stevens, correct me if I'm wrong here, but as soon as we get into the new fiscal year in July, we just go ahead and move that money pretty much right away. Isn't that right? So.
That's when he moves it to Alabama in the box.
Well, is there a motion that we recommend approval to the board?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Our director's discussion and compliance matters, operation agreement with Oconee County.
If you remember back at the board meeting, I believe it was at the board meeting, we had discussion about the need to generate or create an operations agreement with Oconee County because they have us listed on that construction permit application with the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services for the line extension that goes toward exit 4.
Mhm.
So, the direction was that we would take that through committee. Lawrence would put something together and we take it through committee and work it that way to get it ultimately back to the board. But Lawrence, wanted to postpone that and have a discussion with the board at the meeting that we have next, I guess it's in 2 weeks now. So there'll be discussion at that. And we didn't have an OMP committee this month, so, they didn't have the opportunity to hear the same thing. So just something to look forward to at the next meeting. As far as miscellaneous goes, there really isn't anything that I do have other than, we found out late yesterday afternoon that we will be having an inspection here by DES on our facility on Thursday afternoon. We've been getting, or they have been receiving a fair number of odor type of complaints, which for us this time of year is not unusual with the warm days and cool nights, but they just want to come and go through the plant. They came one morning a couple of weeks ago, the week that they said they had received 20 some odd complaints in a day. Went through the plant, said it smells like a wastewater plant, saw no issues, anything like that. So that's all I really have to report.
Is there any committee discussion? With some of since you just brought up the miscellaneous and the odor, has there ever been some form of organized public awareness of if you live in this vicinity during these times, this can happen just based on weather conditions or anything like that? I mean, from a planning perspective, sometimes we have to look at some people and say, yes, I know that you just bought this brand new house in a new subdivision, but you did realize that it was next door to a pig farm, right? You don't go back and fuss at the farmer.
There's never been like a preemptive effort, but there's been efforts that we do make when we get, for instance, we received a notice it was, I believe, early last week, we received by email from a resident over at Cross Creek. And they sent us, an article. They, researched this on their own and said, if you looked into something like this, and it was covers for tanks. And so I forwarded it to our engineer. And I said,
Is it something we can use?
well, it's something that we looked at a number of years ago when I first started here. Believe it or not, the plant used to smell a good bit worse than it does now. Like to us, it has, it's not a bad odor. You've been here the longest of anybody, and there's been some times where it's been bad. But we looked into it. I think it was in 2017 or 2018, and the cost in this, it wasn't for covers for everything. It was for covers for a few of the tanks, but it also had some other capital improvements associated with it too, because at that time we were considering what would it take to get it to where we could land apply our solids as opposed to pressing and landfill and everything. So that was the direction we were going with back then. But it was in the neighborhood, if I remember right, of about $6 million.
Oh, okay.
So, but they brought it to our attention, and we'll look into it. And we'll look at it again and revisit it, but without any of the other improvements that we looked at last time. We have a lot of other needs, as you guys know, and I mentioned at the first, we can't make any guarantees that we can do anything, but we're certainly willing to look into it. So we're going to talk about it on Friday, but in the meantime, we invite, as we do nearly every single time we speak to somebody, come meet with us, take a tour of the plant. We'll show you the areas here where we, when there is an odor that's typically generated, what that, the source of that may be, and nothing else, just kind of see how we work. So they took us up on it. So they're coming on Thursday morning, and they're going to meet with me for about an hour and go, it's just open mic, they can kind of ask me whatever they want to do. And then after that, they're going to get a tour of the plant, and we, let everybody know over there, I invite, some others to come with you if you'd like. And we always do that. And, oftentimes people are real, we're doing it. We don't ever hear from them again. They'll take us up on it. So we get excited when somebody actually is going to take us up on it. Sure. And when we speak to people, I think everybody seems understanding, and they know what what is being done here. And the same thing we mentioned to them too is we don't want to be bad neighbors. We don't want to generate complaints. We kind of like just being to ourselves, and we'd rather you guys don't even know that we exist. But the other thing too is if it smells bad, it's not like we like smelling it either, and we we're here all day right at the source, so we do whatever we can to minimize odors. We don't, just because it's a wastewater plant doesn't mean we like bad odors. So that's the kind of, to answer your question, that's the extent. And I've attended a few public meetings or HOA meetings, not with Cross Creek, but with some folks at Wexford and some others in the area where we will have some odors from time to time, and just explain just that to them about the weather phenomenon that we usually see a couple of times a year.
Yeah. I just knew that sometimes if a certain season is going to happen every single time, because you might have someone new move in, or they have forgotten from one year to the next, and it just be that reminder of, hey, we're at that time of year again. If you happen to, encounter this odor, this is what it is. Everything's okay. We do our best. This is what we do to try to maintain it and reduce it as much as possible.
And we actually have someone coming this afternoon we're talking to them about doing a demo up at Headworks of a neutralizing agent that supposedly is going to neutralize some of the smells. So we'll see how that works, because it's something we're looking at doing at the Wexford over on Davis Creek Road, where we've had a number of odor complaints as well, just to see with Wexford, I'll let Mr.
Yeah.
Mulder know too that if he wanted to come over, because, it's where that Seneca, a couple of Seneca pump stations discharge into our system. So, I don't know if he'll be able to make it or not, but he's aware that that gentleman will be here later today.
Sorry, I know
Oh, no, you're fine.
I messed up our record meeting. Is there
What?
anything else?
I was just thinking, I live down in Monk's Corner, and there's a big landfill. Spring and fall, like I said, the warm days, the cool nights. Everyone, landfills kind of out of sight, out of mind. You only went there when you needed it, you forgot about it. But then in the spring and the fall,
There you go.
when you drove by, you knew it was there. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Or there's a paper mill somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
You know where it is. All right. All right. Well, if there is no other business, then we will call ourselves adjourned.